When we last saw Jin Runcandel, he had overcome the brutal trials of the Garden of Swords, earning his freedom to grow outside the shadow of his lineage. If you're just joining us on this epic journey, you can catch up on Jin's previous exploits through the link. Today, we follow Jin as he pushes his training to legendary levels, confronts his greatest rival yet, and uncovers a horrific conspiracy buried deep within the ruins of Kulon. One that could change the course of magical history forever. The training regimen intensifies, acting as the primary filter for cadet aptitude. While the standard curriculum emphasizes physical conditioning, the disparity between Jin Runcandel and his peers becomes starkly evident during a reflex exercise involving high-velocity metal spheres called graceful stones. During the drill, Daytuma clumsily deflects a sphere, sending it carrying toward Jin's blind spot. To the casual observer, it appears a sudden accident. To Jin, however, time slows. The sphere's trajectory traces itself in the air, clear and predictable. Drawing on the sensory training imparted by his sister, Luna, Jin activates the mind's eye. He doesn't panic, he simply calculates the vector and steps aside, letting the projectile pass harmlessly. Shaken and the Tuma brothers, Daytuma and Haytuma, offer frantic apologies. Jin dismisses them coolly, more focused on the validation of his own progress than their incompetence. The clarity of the sphere's path confirms that his senses now surpass those of a typical intermediate cadet. The drill is interrupted by instructor Jin Runcandel, who arrives with new orders. The cadets are now to be divided not by skill but by political utility. The Toma twins are assigned to a diplomatic mission masked as a social event in the Bamin Empire. Horrified, they dread the formality and rigid etiquette that silences their protests with a deadly glare. He explains that their assignment is punishment, engineered by their more eloquent sisters Miu and En for their inelegance. It is a lesson, he says, observe power, learn restraint. Jin, however, receives a far more dangerous task. It isolates him for a classified briefing. The objective, assassination. The target, Alcaro Chenderer, a man romantically linked to Talaris, the 51st master of the Ice Castle. It emphasizes the peril. The Ice Castle is an independent superpower in the Western Sea, beyond the influence of Runcandel or Zipfel. Talaris, feared as the Spider of the Abyss, is legendary for both her strength and her merciless vengeance against anyone who harms her lovers. Alcaro is hiding in Mamit, a lawless zone beyond imperial jurisdiction and guarded by Ice Castle elites. The Tona twins, who overhear parts of the briefing, pale with fear. They know even fully anointed guardian knights tread lightly in Mamit. Sending a cadet there is, to them, a death sentence. Reviewing the dossier, Jin discerns that the assassination was ordered by the Chenderer family itself. He understands their grim logic. Eliminating their own son is preferable to the risk of him leaking secrets under the Ice Castle sway. It expects hesitation, maybe even a plea. Instead, Jin accepts immediately. I will do it, he says. It is surprised. Jin's unwavering resolve in the face of near-certain death does not go unnoticed. The timeline is set, departure in 2 days. In a rare moment of sincerity, the Tuma brothers drop their bravado and express genuine concern. They suggest Jin reveal his Runcandel lineage if endangered, as the name alone offers some immunity. Jin refuses, unwilling to rely on status for protection. As he turns to leave, the twins attempt to reassert dominance, vowing to surpass him. In response, Jin casually draws his blade and cleaves a massive stone sphere in half. The precision is terrifying. He leaves them with parting advice. Stop challenging him or their sisters until they have the strength to back it up. 2 days later, Jin departs. In disguise, his hair dyed brown and dressed as a traveler, he passes through immigration unnoticed. He briefly crosses paths with his former squad, led by Misa, who are preparing for a monster subjugation mission. Their parting is symbolic. They head toward traditional warfare. Jin descends into shadows and blood. He bids them farewell, promising to return. Before leaving the clan grounds, he visits his household staff. He entrusts Gilly to Murak and the Shadow Dragon disguised as a black cat. Murakin grumbles but accepts the responsibility. Gilly, however, is deeply worried about Jin's target. Jin remains firm. With his disguise in place and resolve hardened, Jin rides alone toward Mamit. The training wheels are off. The institution has sanctioned a mission that pits a cadet against a continental superpower, and Jin Runcandel intends to survive. Mamit, the lawless zone, functions less as a city and more as a filtration system for the continent's refuse. Jin Runcandel enters this harsh environment without his family crest, relying solely on personal strength to establish authority. The local hierarchy wastes no time, testing him with a standard challenge. A hulking aggressor named Tonk demands his submission under threat of violence. Jin's response is swift and brutal. He skips any pretense of negotiation and slams Tonk's head into the table with enough force to shatter it. The confrontation ends in under 3 seconds. The atmosphere shifts immediately. Patrons recognize a transfer of dominance. They mock the fallen man inside of challenging Jin. In Mamit, status is fluid. Jin has just claimed his. With his immediate safety secured, Jin engages the bartender for intelligence. He confirms the local prohibition on poison, a rare, respected rule in an otherwise anarchic zone. His inquiry about a mage named Hister yields nothing, suggesting the individual is either hidden or irrelevant to the lower tiers of the information network. Jin pivots to his secondary goal, locating Alcaro Chenderer. He requests high-class accommodations, and the bartender directs him to the Moonlight Well in the Western District. The Moonlight Well is no ordinary inn. It houses the so-called Kings of Mamit. Here, Jin finds Alcaro Chenderer, a textbook example of a high-value target with minimal actual ability. Alcaro, the foolish young master of the Chenderer Countum, hides in Mamit in a vain attempt to earn favor from the master of the Ice Palace. He survives solely through the strength of his name and his elite escort. Within the inn, the situation is volatile. Alcaro abuses his escort detail, demanding narcotics and striking a guard with magic when refused. Despite their evident resentment, the guards, each assessed by Jin to be 6-star knights, endure the humiliation out of duty. These are professional warriors shackled to a reckless, incompetent charge. Jin studies the tactical landscape. A direct attack is too risky. Alcaro himself is weak, but his elite bodyguards form an impenetrable barrier. Poisoning is not an option. It would violate Mamit's strict taboo, likely turning the entire city against him. Silent assassination is equally impractical given the close proximity of the knights. Jin needs a method that bypasses all defense without provoking mass retaliation. He chooses overwhelming magical force. Just as he prepares his strike, a new variable enters the scene. A high-ranking noblewoman arrives outside the inn with her own retinue, evidently on a punitive mission to eliminate Alcaro. Yet, before she can act, Jin seizes the initiative. He unleashes a concentrated discharge of lightning magic. A massive pillar of blue energy tears through the Moonlight Well, demolishing the structure in a single, catastrophic blast. The precision of the attack makes stealth unnecessary, but overwhelming power does the work instead. Outside, the noblewoman watches the explosion. Rather than panic, she smiles, amused by the chaos. Someone else has moved first. The board has been overturned. Inside the crumbling Moonlight Well, Jin Runcandel assesses the tactical situation. The elimination of the Zippel agents isn't enough. He must now obscure the true cause of the explosion to protect his identity. Calculating quickly, he decides to infuse the wreckage with his 4-star shadow energy. The resulting detonation will mimic the destructive force of a 6-star spell. This misdirection is strategic. Investigators will inevitably suspect a veteran high-rank magician. The idea that a 15-year-old could wield such power is inconceivable. Bearing prodigies like Theridan Zippel, Jin puts the plan into motion. He silently thinks the command, summon lightning. Yet the energy that erupts is not lightning, but a black, corrosive wave of shadow. It tears through the remains of the inn, simulating an external magical bombardment. Outside, the shockwave captures the attention of the Ice Palace faction. Hien, one of their bodyguards, immediately misjudges the threat. He assumes a grudge-driven attack from a high-rank magician targeting either the inn or the Ice Palace itself. He notes with concern that 6 of their members, along with Alcaro, the Ice Palace Master's lover, were inside. As local criminals move in to assert dominance over the scene, they are halted by a wave of freezing force. Sears Endorma, daughter of Ice Palace Master Talers, steps forward. Her presence radiates overwhelming authority. With a single display of ice-infused aura, she silences the posturing thugs. She warns that resistance is equivalent to declaring war on the Ice Palace. The criminals, instantly subdued, retreat. Sears commands her subordinates to prioritize recovery of their own. Then she scans the ruins for the source of the magic. Among the debris, she finds Jin. He immediately assumes the role of a terrified civilian, feigning a leg injury and projecting helplessness. Sears, fooled by his act, treats him with a mix of amusement and condescension. She applies ointment to his wound and tells him to consider this an honor, and to speak well of the Ice Palace. Jin plays the part flawlessly, waving goodbye with a nervous smile, but the moment her back is turned, his expression shifts back to its cold, calculating form. He confirms that the shadow energy left no magical trace. The illusion of a lightning-based external attack has held. When Sears receives reports from her subordinates, she learns that although their own people survived, Alcaro has perished. Instead of grief, she expresses satisfaction. She reveals that her real purpose in Mamit was to eliminate Alcaro herself. The unknown magician has simply done her work for her. Jin, listening carefully while keeping his face obscured, realizes that the accidental timing of the explosion aligned perfectly with the Ice Palace's internal agenda. Sears declares the Moonlight Well under Ice Palace control and dismisses Alcaro's death as a convenient accident. With the mission now complete, and his role unnoticed, Jin silently exits the battlefield he engineered. The narrative opens with a routine combat evaluation of Jin Runcandel's cadet division. Under Misa's field command, the unit engages an orc population with surprising efficiency. The targets are eliminated one by one, resulting in 18 confirmed kills and 0 friendly casualties. The cadets chalk this up to luck or divine intervention, perhaps even Jin's latent influence. Unbeknownst to them, the battlefield had been deliberately manipulated. Days earlier, Murakan had intercepted the monster horde. Through sheer intimidation and overwhelming power, the Shadow Dragon forced the orcs to break formation and scatter, reducing the threat level to match the cadet's 3-star capabilities, remaining in his disguised feline form. Murakan observes the mission's progress, mentally calculating what leisurely compensation he'll demand for his efforts, but the controlled scenario is soon destabilized by an unexpected anomaly. Murakan senses a massive surge of hostile energy far beyond the planned parameters. A graveyard giant, an ancient armor construct, appears within the operation zone. Recognizing the imminent threat to the unprepared cadets, Murakan sheds his disguise. He instantly erects a concealment barrier to isolate the battlefield. Jin, elsewhere in the forest, senses only a shift in atmospheric pressure, not the full magical signature. Murakan identifies the entity as a relic of the dead gods, constructs thought to be eradicated by the Dragon Clan over 2,000 years ago. His presence suggests deliberate excavation or summoning, pointing to the likely involvement of the Zippel family. Without hesitation, Murakan reverts to his true form and launches a devastating breath attack, obliterating the graveyard giant in a single strike. In the aftermath, he assesses the implications. The attack was no accident. It signals a much deeper conspiracy tied to resurrection-based magic. Murakan, however, withholds this information from Jin. He deems the knowledge too dangerous for the heir at his current stage. Given Jin's growth rate, Murakan predicts he'll be ready to confront the Zippels directly within 10 years. Elsewhere, the construct's destruction is immediately detected by the Kinzalo Revolutionary Group. Transformation sorcerer Bubair Gaston panics at the loss of his creation. His superior, Bishkalibrino, responds with cold analysis. Reviewing the combat data, Adriano accurately identifies the attacker as a shadow dragon. Misreading the strike as a deliberate warning from the dragon race, he orders a strategic pivot and initiates contact with the Zippel family, hinting at a potential alliance between dangerous factions in response to the reappearance of a long-dormant threat. Following the successful completion of the Mamit mission, Jin Runcandel returns to the clan estate. He is formally received by the senior command, and the mobilization order for backup troops is rescinded. Though the mission is logged as a success, skepticism regarding Jin's capabilities persists among the lower ranks. While traversing the grounds with his retinue, Jin overhears a conversation among intermediate cadets, led by Kajin Romero. They conduct a flawed post-mission analysis, attributing the destruction of the construct to external intervention, specifically a high-ranking magician. Adhering strictly to official rankings, they dismiss Jin as a mere 4-star knight who survived through luck. Despite his lineage, they argue, he remains statistically inferior to Kajin. Jin reveals his presence, discarding the advantage of stealth. Rather than reacting with anger, he reminds the group, calmly and precisely, of their last encounter, asking Kajin about the surgical reattachment of the arm Jin had severed. The psychological pressure intensifies. Jin acknowledges that he lacks the political authority of a flag-bearer but finds their presence increasingly intrusive. Provoked, Kajin asserts his dominance as a 5-star knight and top-ranked intermediate cadet. He challenges Jin, expecting his superior mana reserves to ensure victory. Jin accepts immediately. To remove any doubt, Kajin proposes a no-limit duel with unrestricted aura usage. Confident, he believes the outcome will be dictated by brute force. The duel begins. Kajin launches heavy aura-infused attacks designed to overwhelm. To the spectators, the strikes seem relentless. But Jin, thanks to his advanced perception training with steel orbs, deciphers the trajectory of each attack. What others see as chaos, Jin reads as a predictable sequence. He notes that Kajin, driven by emotion, limits his own options. He calmly predicts the duel's outcome. 3 exchanges. He announces Kajin's attack sequence, a leftward slash, a deceptive uppercut, and a final downward strike at full output. As predicted, Kajin follows the sequence exactly. Jin parries the first 2 blows effortlessly. When the final attack comes, one theoretically impossible for a 4-star knight to block, Jin intercepts it directly. He neutralizes the force, deflects the blade, and ends the duel with his own weapon poised at Kajin's throat. The hierarchy of the intermediate class is shattered. Kajin, stunned, accuses Jin of falsifying his public rank. Jin denies it, stating that Kajin's failure lies not in strength, but in faulty intelligence. He delivers a final maxim. He does not enter battles unless the outcome is already certain. As other cadets gather, they witness the collapse of the old pecking order. Jin's dominance is undeniable. News of the encounter reaches the upper echelons of the clan. Kajin reports his defeat to Joshua Runcandel's faction. The initial reaction is disbelief. They accuse Kajin of accepting a bribe to throw the duel. He counters that Jin's aura density clearly exceeded the 5-star threshold. This revelation triggers alarm. Jin is no longer a passive figure but an emerging threat to the Runcandel succession. Observation is over. The ruling faction authorizes a shift in strategy. Jin's next mission will include embedded operatives, with orders not to monitor, but to ensure his elimination. The objective has changed, from containment to extermination. The internal power dynamics of the Runcandel clan have shifted. Jin Runcandel is now officially recorded as a 5-star knight at the age of 15, a statistical anomaly. In the clan's vast history, only 3 individuals have ever reached such a level at this age. Yet even this public record understates his true potential. Jin's internal diagnostics confirm 5-star swordsmanship, 4-star magic, and 4-star shadow energy. More importantly, these power sources are synergistic. A breakthrough in one amplifies the others, generating a compound growth trajectory the current hierarchy is unprepared to handle. This revelation destabilizes the established succession roadmap. Previously, the hierarchy was considered static. Following Jin Runcandel's abdication, Joshua Runcandel, backed by the matriarch, Rosa, secured his position as the primary heir. But with Jin's emergence, the foundations of that assumption collapse. Jin predicts that Patriarch Jin Runcandel will issue a dual directive in response, a high-difficulty trial to validate Jin's value, and a temporary protection order to prevent his elimination before the trial is complete. As the Garden of Swords prepares for the Patriarch's inspection, requiring Murakan, the Shadow Dragon, to remain hidden, the opposition strikes. Silence from Jin's rival siblings breaks with a bureaucratic assault. A mission order assigning him to the Kalon ruins. Meanwhile, within central administration, Matriarch Rosa Runcandel intervenes. She flags the assignment as a covert assassination attempt. The Kalon ruins lie within Zippel territory, a region where Runcandel operations have historically failed. Rosa summons the involved flag bearers, Regia, Ran, and Vago, and dismantles the operation. Her motivation is not maternal instinct but strategic preservation. She ruthlessly reprimands the conspirators, making it clear, protection is earned through merit. Since none of the older siblings match Jin's capabilities at his age, they are now less valuable than the anomaly they sought to eliminate. Punishments are swift and public. Runch is placed on disciplinary probation for failing to control internal unrest. Ran and Vigo are ordered to surrender their swords, an overt reduction in their military status and symbolic power. Rosa then turns to Jin. She offers him a choice designed as a psychological test: accept her protection and admit dependency, or face the lethal mission unaided. Jin chooses the latter. He formally accepts the mission to the Kalon ruins, acknowledging the extreme risk. He reframes the assignment not as a trap, but as an opportunity to succeed where the clan has consistently failed. He overrides the cancellation order, asserting both his autonomy and ambition. The internal conflict has escalated. What began as political maneuvering is now open warfare. Jin Runcandel formally accepts the mission to the Kalon ruins, framing the dangerous assignment not as punishment, but as a test, a validation of his strength and political insight. He addresses the matriarch and his siblings directly, dissecting the true nature of the operation. Unable to defeat him in direct combat, his sisters have leveraged their administrative authority to place him in mortal danger. However, resigning the mission order now would be an admission of poor leadership, forcing clan command to proceed. Jin concludes that while a physical confrontation with his sisters remains unwinnable for now, completing the mission will deliver a decisive blow to their credibility. Before departing, Jin negotiates terms with Rosa Runcandel. He demands the sword previously surrendered by his elder brothers as a reward for his success. The request causes an immediate stir. It's more than a prize. It's a public claim to the Runcandel legacy. One brother tries to intercede, offering his own weapon if Jin backs down. Jin coldly rejects the offer. Rosa accepts the terms, silencing the room. Privately, she studies Jin's demeanor. She had once feared he would inherit Luna's passive detachment, but his assertive bargaining proves otherwise. Rosa concludes that his ambition will please the Patriarch, Chiron. As Jin prepares for departure, his sisters introduce a final twist. The mission is not a solo endeavor. He is assigned a support team led by Mile and Lima Haas. Though the operatives present themselves with obsequious loyalty, Jin quickly identifies them as agents loyal to Miu and his sisters. Their presence is a threat masked as protection, likely intended to engineer an accident during the mission. Jin adopts a cooperative front while calculating their true motives. The briefing outlines the mission's goal: retrieve 4 artifacts from the Kalon ruins, a former native settlement now under Zippel control. Drawing on memories from his past life, Jin identifies the real prize, the Fountain of Mana. The Zippels had exterminated the native population not for territory or weapons, but to hide this relic. The fountain can elevate any mage to Hunter level by sight alone. In the future, Jin remembers, it became the keystone of Zippel's rise to magical supremacy. Determined to prevent this outcome, Jin resolves to secure or destroy the artifact before it can be weaponized. At the infiltration site, the team locates the Fountain of Mana within the third warehouse. The agents feign loyalty, pledging their lives to protect Jin. He receives the gesture with cold detachment. During his scheduled rest period, he distributes rations. The operatives consume them and immediately collapse. Jin reveals the food was laced with a powerful sedative. Their arrogance, he notes, made them careless. Without drawing his sword, he has neutralized the internal threat. With the saboteurs unconscious, Jin enters the forest alone to complete the mission. Jin approaches the third warehouse within Zippel territory under cover of night. 2 sentries stand guard at the entrance, casually conversing about wine, a clear lapse in discipline. Jin seizes the opportunity. Moving with blinding speed, he closes the distance and incapacitates both men before they can react. At the entrance, He notes the padlock is mundane, devoid of magical reinforcement. This suggests the warehouse is not classified as high priority. However, upon opening the door, he detects a trap, a magic circle of blood and detection embedded in the floor. His archival knowledge identifies the glyph as a standard security measure used to differentiate between humans and demonic beasts, or to detect carriers of infectious plagues. It activates upon contact with blood. To avoid detection, Jin drags one of the unconscious guards onto the sigil and slices his palm, using the guard's own blood to trigger the mechanism. The result is catastrophic. The glyph flares red, signaling the blood is either non-human or tainted. The guard's body convulses violently. His flesh calcifies, his form expanding as dark energy erupts outward. In seconds, he mutates into a massive stone creature. The guards were not just protectors, they were latent biological traps. Realizing the situation has escalated, Jin casts Wind of Silence, a spell that suppresses sound and magical signatures, shielding the conflict from nearby detection. Both guards complete their transformation into towering living golems. Jin engages one immediately, severing its arm with a clean strike. But the limb regenerates almost instantly. While the golems match the power and speed of a 4-star knight, their movements are crude, brute force without finesse. Jin quickly concludes that ordinary damage is ineffective. Drawing from his knowledge of magical constructs, he deduces that the creatures must have a core, likely in the head, chest, or abdomen. He tests the theory, landing a blow to the neck, but it has no effect. The golem retaliates with increased aggression, evading a crushing counterattack. Jin shifts his focus to the lower torso. His blade pierces deep and strikes true. The hidden mana core shatters. Immediately, the golem's regeneration ceases, and its stone form crumbles. Beneath the debris lies what's left of the human it once was, disfigured, barely alive. The broken figure whispers a plea for release. Jin grants it with a swift, merciful strike. Standing amid the ruin, Jin confirms the grim truth. The Zippel family is using the Kalan runes to manufacture forbidden biological weapons. These soldiers were not warriors, but victims, stripped of humanity and repurposed as disposable weapons. He sheaths his blade, his resolve solidifying. The creators of such atrocities must be held accountable. Jin Runcandel surveys the tactical landscape of the Kalan ruins. Though he has uncovered the Zippel clan's forbidden experiments, using human subjects to create living golems, he lacks the political leverage to expose them outright. A public accusation would only invite retaliation. Instead, he opts for a surgical solution: total demolition. By destroying the evidence, he forces the Zippels to cover up the incident themselves to avoid scrutiny from imperial authorities. Before leaving, he secures a vital sample, a living golem heart. He then ignites the warehouse using a combination of water and flame magic, erasing all traces of the facility. At the same time, back at the Runcandel estate, the clan's internal order reasserts itself through brute force. Luna Runcandel, the eldest daughter and strongest warrior outside the succession race, physically disciplines her sisters, Miu and Anne. Her fury is twofold. They violated the unspoken clan code by targeting a junior sibling through indirect means, and they failed. In Runcandel tradition, flag bearers challenge flag bearers. Younger cadets settle matters among themselves by sending Jin, 10 years their junior, into a death trap. Miu and Anne crossed a line. Luna warns them that Jin is no longer a harmless outlier. He will not be merciful if they fail again. After returning from the ruins, Jin consults with his loyal guardian Gilly. Together, they review the family's internal threat matrix. Based on the scale of previous assassination attempts, they eliminate Miu, Anne, and the Tona twins as primary suspects. The remaining threats are narrowed down to the senior heirs, Joshua, Dibos, and Lungia. For now, they choose passive observation over direct confrontation. Privately, Jin presents the recovered golem heart to Murakan. The artifact confirms the Zippel's grotesque experimentation. Jin deduces that the chaos caused by the warehouse's destruction will create a valuable blind spot, one he plans to exploit to locate the legendary Fountain of Mana. The fallout is swift. The accomplices in the assassination plot, cadets Jin and the Haas brothers, are stripped of rank and exiled by Miu and Anne. In contrast, Jin, standing within the clan skyrockets. By June of 1795, he successfully completes the Clearstone training regimen. Instructors it officially exempts him from standard cadet duties. The rate of his progression prompts a summons from Patriarch Jin Runcandel. The implication is clear. Jin is being positioned as a provisional flag bearer. This status allows him to leave the clan compound and build his reputation independently. For others, it might seem like exile. For Jin, it is liberation, a license to grow without surveillance or constraint. The return of Patriarch Jin Runcandel prompts a formal review of the clan's recent operations. While en route from the Black Sea, Jin evaluates the performance data of his youngest son. The results are extraordinary. Jin Runcandel has not only reached the rank of 5-star knight but also defeated a White Wolf tribesman in single combat, without using subordinates as shields. Though Jin recognizes the complexity of Jin's inner world, he affirms that the boy's combat style aligns perfectly with the Runcandel doctrine. crush opposition without hesitation. Upon Chiron's arrival at the Garden of Swords, the clan's internal hierarchy is tested. Runcandel has maintained stability, but the patriarch quickly uncovers a quiet power shift. Jin has acquired valuable swords from his elder brothers, Ran and Vado, through a wager tied to the Colin Ruins mission. Rather than punish this apparent overreach, Chiron approves. He views Jin's cunning acquisition of resources as a mark of leadership, a contrast to his complacent siblings. Before the clan banquet, Chiron and Jin engage in a private strategic discussion. Jin, once a marginalized figure, now stands as the guest of honor, a striking reversal from his former timeline. Chiron remarks on the presence of 1,000 guests, citing it as evidence of the family's rising prestige. Yet he tempers this pride with caution. The Runcandel influence remains fragile, anchored solely to his presence as the world-only genius nigh. Should he fall, the Zippel clan would quickly move to dominate. Jin's response is pragmatic and unflinching. If the clan were led by a weak patriarch, he would abandon it. But he offers a solution. By exploiting his wager with Vago, Jin has obtained access to the clan's commission contracts, classified documents containing damning secrets about imperial nobles and vassals. He presents these records as bladeless weapons, asserting that in the absence of genius-level strength, survival depends on leverage and manipulation. Chiron approves of this philosophy. Playing the villain, he says, is a Runcandel birthright. Internally, he evaluates Jin's traits. A fusion of Luna's talent, Mary's wildness, and Dippo's fighting spirit. The patriarch estimates he has 10 to 15 years remaining, during which he will determine whether Jin can overturn the current line of succession. However, this introspective moment is cut short by a diplomatic crisis. As the final banquet preparations conclude, a report arrives. An uninvited delegation has entered the estate. The Zippel family has breached Runcandel territory, an unmistakable act of aggression that signals immediate escalation. The Zippel clan's breach of diplomatic protocol is met with a swift and calculated countermeasure. Patriarch Chiron Runcandel orders that Andrew Zippel be denied entry to the banquet grounds, though his family members may proceed. The tactic is a deliberate humiliation. If Andrew withdraws, he concedes. If he enters alone or waits outside while his entourage enters, he submits to Runcandel authority. Chiron anticipates the latter, securing a symbolic victory at the gate before the first toast is poured. With the power dynamic firmly established, the banquet begins. Chiron formally introduces Jin Runcandel to the gathered elite. Publicly recognizing his elevated status, he declares 2 absolute rules for the event. First, any conflict stemming from intoxication must be resolved in the arena, overseen by guardian knights. Second, the victor must show mercy, and the loser must concede. This is no ordinary celebration, it is a party of fated meetings, where the continent's power brokers engage in veiled diplomacy, measured violence, and strategic alliance building. Chiron grants Jin the freedom to recruit anyone who piques his interest on one condition. He must not challenge those weaker than himself without cause. As Jin mingles among the guests, receiving praise for his 5-star ascension, his composure is tested by Huder, a flagbearer of the Tuco clan. Relying on seniority rather than merit, Huder offers condescending remarks and unwelcome physical contact. Belittling Jin's youth, Jin's response is methodical. He returns the physical gesture with calculated force, gripping Huder's head and immobilizing him. In front of the crowd, he deconstructs Huder's arrogance, framing the insult not as a personal slight, but as a disrespect to the high-ranking families who have already recognized Jin's status. The political weight of his words turns the room against Huder. Realizing the diplomatic danger, the Tuco clan elders intervene swiftly. They compel Huder to apologize. Jin accepts, asserting his dominance without drawing a blade. Luna Runcandel watches with interest. She asks how Jin had the confidence to provoke a warrior suspected to be at the 6-star level. Jin replies that he knew the Tuco elders would act. Self-preservation would force their hand to avoid triggering clan-wide retaliation. Luna sees the truth. Jin's survival instincts have evolved. He no longer relies on swordsmanship alone. He has learned to weaponize the fear and prestige of the Runcandel name. She concludes that Jin's accelerated growth is likely what provoked the assassination attempt at Stormcastle. His threat was perceived long before the banquet. As Luna departs, the tension shifts to the arrival of the Ivliano faction. Bishop Ivliano is seen scolding his servant, Bouvard, who is distracted composing love poems for Luna. They are joined by Margilla Ivliano, their presence marking another key faction entering the fray. The banquet's first phase draws to a close as a mysterious figure with golden eyes approaches Jin. With a formal greeting, the stranger introduces a new variable to the evolving power equation. The search for the Zippel delegation is abruptly interrupted by an unexpected encounter. Jin Runcandel collides with a new variable, Cyrus and Dorma, heir to the Hidden Palace. What begins as diplomatic small talk over their shared age and martial status quickly transforms into something more pointed. Cyrus bypasses etiquette and directly references a leg injury, a detail tying Jin to the recent Mamit incident. She lays out her suspicion plainly. Her agents failed to apprehend the magic terrorist Mamit, and she now suspects the boy she once let go, Jin, is the culprit. Jin deflects, leveraging the prestige of the Runcandel name to imply such tactics would be beneath him. Privately, however, he acknowledges her accuracy. He had indeed injured her subordinates while pursuing Alcaro. Their verbal sparring reaches an impasse. Abandoning diplomacy, Cyrus issues a formal challenge. The arena is clear, the gates sealed. Only the two combatants and designated medical staff remain. Jin requests standard weapons, treating the duel as a controlled engagement, not a personal vendetta. Cyrus opens with the Mary Ice Blades, a unique technique passed down through her lineage. Jin's parries confirm his classification as a 5-star knight, deflecting even her complex, layered strikes. But his real insight lies beneath the blade. Cyrus, he observes, is a 4-star knight using the intricacy of her family's technique to bridge the gap in raw physical stats. Realizing she cannot win through attrition, Cyrus shifts tactics. She prepares a decisive strike, the third form. Avalanche, a technique that floods the arena with ore-concentrated ice. Jin studies the energy pattern and smirks. Has seen this before. Deep within his memory, owned at Storm Castle, he recalls a counter-technique designed specifically for this scenario. He moves. As the two elite techniques collide, Jin instantly recognizes the impending scale of destruction. It's far beyond the bounds of a controlled spar. At the last possible moment, he shouts a warning to Cyrus. A heartbeat later, the arena detonates. The collision between Jin Runcandel's Stormblade and Cyrus Endorma's myriad ice blades. Third form triggers a catastrophic surge of energy. The blast zone is consumed in a blinding detonation of ice and aura. Jin is hurled backward by the shockwave, instantly recognizing his tactical miscalculation. The sheer force of the Adila family's technique had exceeded the acceptable bounds of a spar. There's a real possibility the heir to the Ice Palace could have been killed or permanently maimed. As the dust settles, Cyrus is revealed kneeling on the shattered arena floor. Her body is unharmed, but her composure is fractured. She questions her own instincts. In the face of annihilation, her body had acted without conscious intent, evading instead of enduring. It was not a decision made by a warrior, but by a creature desperate to survive. Jin approaches cautiously, confirming she is physically intact. He can see the torment in her expression. Cyrus admits the truth, her body betrayed her code. Despite her pride, the will to live overpowered her warrior's resolve, and that weakness now haunts her. To ease the sting of defeat, Jin offers no condescension. Instead, Cyrus initiates a diplomatic reset. She applies a medicinal self to a cut on Jin's face and formally declares their previous encounter null. As of today, they are meeting for the first time. Her honor is preserved, and the rivalry is redefined. Not erased, but respectfully postponed. The next day, the banquet hall lies quieter. Most guests have migrated to observe the martial duels. Jin uses the moment of calm to map out his next move, his investigation into Colin and the recovery of the Manhwa fountain. But solitude doesn't last. A black cat named Butterfly appears, leading him to a peculiar guest. It's Varadin Zippel, a prominent figure in the Zippel magician clan. Varadin greets Jin with excessive familiarity, referencing a supposed meeting at the Middle Kingdom teleportation gate. Jin plays along, feigning ignorance, but internally he recognizes Varadin immediately. A future 9-star magician, destined to become the Zippel Patriarch at just 18, Varadin is already a 6-star mage. This revelation sparks a reassessment. In his previous life, Varadin was considered untouchable, but in this life, Jin's trajectory is outpacing history. He is growing faster than the greatest talents of his time. The gap between the Runcandel's youngest and the Zippel prodigy is not widening, it's shrinking. Varadin, ever eccentric, admits to crashing the banquet uninvited. He blames destiny and poor navigation. He even tries to coax Jin into attending a Zippel banquet in return. Before Jin can respond, they are interrupted by a minor noble lurking nearby. The intruder approaches with a bundle of love poems, written for Luna Runcandel. His lack of decorum is staggering. Worse, he addresses Jin as brother-in-law, delusionally assuming a relationship with Luna. Varadin chuckles at the absurdity, but Jin does not. To associate Luna Runcandel with this man is an insult to the Runcandel name. Jin rips the poems apart and delivers a brutal slap across the noble's face. The man protests, claiming a guest's right to express affection. Jin rejects this argument outright. Disrespecting Luna is a breach of protocol and pride, one that demands a martial response. He orders the guards to escort the offender to the arena. The conversation is over. The next exchange will be fought with fists. The offending noble is forcibly escorted to the arena by Runcandel guards. As he's dragged through the corridors, his internal monologue reveals a deeper concern. He fears that Jin Runcandel has uncovered his involvement in a transformation-related incident involving the Zippel faction 5 years earlier. This panic exposes the noble as more than a mere social nuisance. He is an operative with a hidden, potentially dangerous past. Jin enters the duel grounds and formally declares that the matter will be settled through hand-to-hand combat. Among the spectators are Bishkal and Margila Abrino, heirs of the Abrino family. Bishkal questions the legitimacy of such a match, puzzled by why a Runcandel would engage someone so seemingly unthreatening. Margila, however, remains silent, her expression unreadable. Inside the arena, The guest attempts to stall the inevitable with formalities, introductions and procedural agate. Jin refuses the delay. He commands silence and launches into combat with a brutal strike to the face. The blow sends the man sprawling, but Jin instantly notes something unusual. His opponent used aura to cushion the impact. This is no defenseless guest. His durability aligns with that of a 6-star warrior. The fight continues, with Jin systematically dismantling his opponent's endurance-based defenses. Despite the man's mocking commentary, Jin's relentless strikes leave him bloody and gasping on the ground. Suddenly, Margilla Abriano intervenes. She feigns outrage, framing Jin's enforcement of clan protocol as bullying. With calculated theatrics, she commands her brother, Bishwal, to step into the ring and discipline the Runcandel heir. Bishwal, clearly reluctant to meddle in Runcandel internal matters, obeys nonetheless. Jin now faces a new opponent, true threat. Bishwal is a knight who has surpassed the 7-star threshold, a warrior far superior to Jin's current 5-star level. As they engage, the stylistic contrast is stark. The Ibriano style resembles a sly snake, fluid, deceptive, and angular. Runcandel's swordsmanship, by comparison, is a charging rhinoceros, brutal, straightforward, and relentless. Under heavy pressure, Jin holds his ground, recognizing that Bishwal is intentionally pulling his strikes to avoid political fallout. Jin exploits this hesitation. Drawing upon his shadow energy and memories from his past life, he pushes his body past its limit, tapping into the sensation of his previous peak. In a moment of heightened clarity and precision, Jin slips past Bishwal's guard and lands a shallow cut on the man's neck. The wound is minor, but the message is thunderous. A 5-star knight has breached the defense of a 7-star master. Bishwal halts the engagement, reassessing the situation. He tries to diffuse the tension by clarifying that the battered noble is not a servant, but a companion. He finally reveals the man's name, Babert Gaston. The name triggers an immediate memory in Jin. In his past life, Babert Gaston was a wanted criminal, a transformation sorcerer who would later be arrested for illegal magical experimentation. This revelation confirms that the Abriano family, whether knowingly or not, is harboring a future fugitive with dangerous magical potential. Still, Jin does not withdraw. The opportunity to spar against a 7-star knight who isn't actively trying to kill him is too valuable. He stores the intelligence for later and recommits to the duel, using each clash of swords as a tool to sharpen his technique and advance his cultivation through live battle. The engagement between Jin Runcandel and Bishwal Ibriano ends in a single, decisive moment. Jin surges forward, his blade slicing through Bishwal's wooden training sword with blinding speed. The resulting cut, clean and shallow, lands across Bishwal's throat. A mere fraction more force or a slight delay in reaction, and it would have been fatal. Bishwal immediately assesses the strike and recognizes the technique. Heartsword, a high-level discipline allowing a warrior to strike with intent, bypassing the need for vision or telegraphed movement. Though Jin is technically a 5-star cadet, he has neutralized the 7-star knight through superior application and precision. Bishwal concedes. Jin is no longer just a prodigy. He is a strategic anomaly. Moments later, Jin collapses from exhaustion. 2 days pass. Jin awakens in his quarters. Khalid, his ever-loyal attendant, provides an update. He missed the remainder of the banquet, but the impact of his duel continues to reverberate. Where nobles once viewed him with skepticism, they now speak of him with respect, even apprehension. He has rewritten the rules of rank. A 5-star swordsman can, under the right conditions, threaten someone far above his level. Jin reflects on the duel's outcome. He attributes his success to Luna's earlier sensory deprivation training, once grueling, now invaluable. The banquet's aftermath offers more than prestige, it yields critical intelligence. Jin now understands Braden Zippel's current level and personality. His new rivalry with Ceres and Dorma, heir to the Ice Palace, symbolized by the floral token she left behind. The connection between Babert Gaston, a future criminal, and the Ibriano family. Shortly afterward, Jin is summoned to the Runcandel Mausoleum, a sacred site reserved only for those who have brought glory to the clan. Patriarch Chiron awaits. In the crabbed silence, Chiron unearths the family's deepest secret. The Runcandel bloodline's inability to use magic is not natural. It was the result of a humiliating pact with the Zippel clan and a curse following the death of the first patriarch, Timur Runcandel. Like Jin, Timur once wielded shadow force and dark magic. Chiron admits that he has known about Jin's powers since the confrontation with the Toma twins but chose not to intervene due to Jin's youth. That leniency ends here. The patriarch issues a challenge. Use your forbidden powers and rise above your siblings. Jin accepts, but on his own terms. He requests to leave the main estate and experience the outside world before directly challenging the family hierarchy. Chiron agrees, but imposes strict conditions. Jin is given 5 years to prove himself. He must surrender the Sword of Gardens, losing his official authority and protection. He may only return when he is ready to be acknowledged by the family or submit to it. Jin accepts the terms. He reunites with Gilead and the now disguised Murakan, the Shadow Dragon. Gilead conceals her warrior presence beneath a nanny's disguise, her aura suppressed by specialized gear. Jin promises that her loyalty and honor will be restored through his success. Thus begins Jin Runcandel's 5-year campaign to prove his worth, not only to the Runcandels, but to the world beyond. The narrative begins with the private reflections of Patriarch Jin Runcandel. Though his swordsmanship has breached the realm of demigods, he remains bound by the ancestral oath with the Zippel clan, a shackle of humiliation passed down through generations. Chiron's attention shifts to the anomaly of the family, Jin Runcandel. With the confirmation of his shadow energy and a contract with Solderit, Chiron reclassifies Jin, not as a deviation, but as a potential keystone in the Runcandel family's liberation from magical subjugation. As Jin departs, Chiron oppresses sentiment. The boy is no longer merely a son. He is a long-term investment. Outside the estate, the campaign begins. Jin is joined by Gilly and the disguised Murakan, whose true form remains hidden for operational discretion. Jin bypasses any farewell to his sister Luna or former allies, deeming such gestures emotionally inefficient. The clan's standard operating procedure for reserve flag bearers typically involves gaining fame through bounty hunting in Mamit. Jin rejects this as a shallow reputation grind. His real objective lies elsewhere. Jin identifies the Arkan Kingdom as their first target. Gilly raises concern. The region is infested with Zippel influence and monitored by the Ludero Magic Federation. But Jin, drawing on memories from his past life, reveals the true target, Tessing, a criminal syndicate that traffics in unregistered warriors, illegal mages, and stolen relics, specifically is after grimoires and an undervalued ring artifact. Items dismissed by modern appraisers but critical to Jin's long-term strategy. A major hurdle arises. Funding. Runcandel policy permits departing cadets a paltry sum of 10 gold coins. Jin cannot reveal his surname for banking or political leverage, per clan rules. To bypass logistical delays, Murakan sheds his disguise and reveals his dragon form, transporting the group via aerial flight. The sudden energy surge from Murakan's transformation doesn't go unnoticed. Back at the Garden of Swords, Luna Runcandel, standing atop a spire, senses the presence of a high-order entity. She watches Jin soar through the sky on dragonback and smiles, not with surprise, but with grim satisfaction. Her brother is now playing at a different level. After a row landing in the Jin Kingdom, Gilly becomes incapacitated due to the strain of flight. Murakan stays behind to aid her recovery. Jin advances alone to resolve the financial crisis. He locates Sember, a nobleman indebted to him from a prior encounter during the Kinzalo faction incident. Jin had saved Sember's life, an uncollected debt that now matures. He reveals his identity, startling the noble, and demands immediate repayment in the form of liquid currency. With capital secured, Jin sets his sights on the Vil family estate, where the next stage of resource acquisition and confrontation awaits. The operational parameters for a provisional flag bearer are clear. Conceal your identity, receive no clan support, and build your reputation through martial prowess alone. Most Runcandel cadets endure extreme hardship in their first month, starvation, low-tier mercenary work, or worse. Jin Runcandel, however, subverts this precedent by calling in an old life debt from Sember, the noble he once saved. Jin secures substantial funding. Rather than scraping by, his unit dines on luxury cuisine. Gilly Python expresses surprise at how smooth their start has been, confessing she had braced for suffering. Murakan, ever sharp-tongued, teases her shifting morality. She once called this kind of transaction extortion. Jin corrects them both. This was no extortion, but the honorable repayment of a life saved. As the trio prepares to move out, Murakan gorges himself, prompting Jin to warn him not to overeat before teleportation. The dragon scoffs, bragging about his unmatched constitution. Jin reminds him that even predators starve without a contractor. His strength isn't as limitless as he believes. The next tactical debate arises over travel method. Murakan proposes aerial flight in his dragon form. Jin rejects it outright. They are headed to the Akan Kingdom, deep within the Ludero Magic Federation governed by the hostile Zippel clan. A dragon in unauthorized airspace would trigger an international incident. Despite his arrogance and dismissive remarks about Zippel-controlled dragons, Murakan complies, shrinking into the form of a black cat to avoid detection. As they travel, Jin reflects on the Zippel power structure. Unlike the Runcandels, whose strength is centralized in Patriarch Chiron, the Zippels wield a vast network of power, dozens of gods contracted, and 80% of active dragons under their control. Jin notices a statistical irregularity. The volume of divine contractors emerging in a single generation defies probability. It suggests the Zippels are manipulating unseen systems, cheating fate itself. At the dimensional transfer gate, Jin presents forged identities. Jin Grey and Gilly Python. The documents are perfect, sophisticated enough to fool even the Vermin Special Forces. Entry is granted without delay. The transfer begins. Upon arrival in the Akan Kingdom, Jin surveys the land with a grim familiarity. In his previous life, he hadn't returned here in over 15 years, but the city remains unchanged, decayed, hopeless, and silent despite the clear skies. Gilly remarks on the suffocating air. Jin attributes it to the Tsing clan, a brutal syndicate ruling the city with fear. Jin directs the group to find shelter but not in luxury. Instead of a reputable inn, they arrive at a rotting establishment called Jet's Inn. Murakami scoffs at the squalor, questioning the decision given their ample funds. Jin explains, the town is infested with illegal mages and criminal brokers. High-end lodging would draw attention. A place so vile that even orcs wouldn't sleep there provides the anonymity they need. Inside they are greeted by Jet, the innkeeper. He sizes them up, and gets everything wrong. He assumes Murakami is a lustful fool, Keely a maid, and Jin a weakling. Believing he's stumbled upon prime trafficking stock, Jet laces their orange juice with sedatives, planning to sell them on the underground market. Murakami drinks first, but immediately detects the toxin. Enraged by the insult, he hurls the glass into Jet's face. Blood spatters. Murakami's human form blurs as shadow energy coils around him, his silhouette shifting. Monstrous, the air goes cold. The innkeeper, now groveling in terror, realizes too late that he has attempted to drug a dragon. Murakami declares a sentence with zero hesitation. You're dead. The shadow dragon strikes without hesitation. Murakami doesn't merely attack, he delivers judgment. With a single devastating blow, Jet, the innkeeper, is hurled into the wall, nearly reduced to pulp. As Murakami prepares a lethal follow-up, Jin Runcandel halts him, not out of mercy, but strategy. In his previous life, Jet had pretended to be a helpful informant during Jin's exile in Akin. In reality, he was a parasite, scamming Jin out of what little he had left. But this timeline is different. Jin is no longer the victim. He is the architect. Despite Muraga's outrage, he argues that even a sedative is a death-worthy offense. Jin intervenes, asserting control. Keely tries to defuse the tension, but it takes a direct command from Jin to stop Murakami from killing Jet. Instead, they pivot from execution to interrogation. Jin sets the terms. Truth means survival, lies mean death. Murakami drives the point home with another punishing strike. The message is clear. Jet's life hangs by a thread, and only usefulness can save him. Faced with annihilation, Jet confesses. He is not just an innkeeper, he is a human trafficker, an informant. Keely and Murakami are disgusted. Jin, however, remains detached. He demands information. Where was Jet going to sell them? Jet stalls, and Jin crushes his hand underfoot. The pain loosens his tongue. He names the testing underground auction house a black market clearinghouse for stolen artifacts, narcotics, and slaves. Despite deep-seated resentment from his past life, Jin chooses to spare Jet. Not out of pity, but practicality. They need a guide through the Akin underworld. He orders Jet to be healed, prioritizing function over vengeance. Jin leaves the inn to find a healer, maintaining the appearance of a cautious traveler rather than revealing his identity as a regressor or Runcandel. Jet, now bandaged and confused, can't make sense of it all. Who are these people? Martial Clanshans, secret agents. He doesn't know, but he does resolve to betray them at the first opportunity. Upon Jin's return, the group mobilizes. Jet leads them to the testing auction house, a grand estate masked as a social gala, guarded and glittering, a corrupt palace hiding a darker truth. Inside, an orchestra plays while illicit deals unfold beneath chandeliers. Jet guides them, briefing them on the power hierarchy. While Sokka serves as the face of the operation, the true leader is Spider-Hands Alav, a mage and 7-star martial artist wrapped in mystery and whisper fear. Kit leans in with a final, chilling rumor. Although may be connected to the pure-blood Runcandel clan, a contradiction to everything the clan claims to stand for. Murakami scoffs. Chilly doubts. The Runcandels would mingle with low-tier crimes indicates right. But Jin goes still. In his former life, he was stripped of his swordsmanship by a 9-star curse called Bladed Illusion. A curse so rare and complex that no one ever discovered its source. For 15 years, he searched for the one responsible and found nothing. Until now. The mission changes in an instant. This is no longer a raid. It is a hunt. They are not just taking down a trafficker. They are pursuing the architect of Jin's past downfall. And this time, the blade won't be taken from his hand. Jin Runcandel, along with Murakami and Keely, successfully infiltrates the testing underground auction. Upon arrival, Murakami notes a dangerous density of unregistered magicians among the security, evidence that this is no mere criminal marketplace, but a fortified stronghold. Rather than act immediately, Jin implements a dormant strategy. For a full week, the group abstains from bidding or interaction. They quietly observe human trafficking, artifact fraud, and power brokering in its rawest form. Their informant, Jet, grows increasingly agitated. Inactivity, in his eyes, invites suspicion and expulsion, but Jin is playing a deeper game. The pattern breaks with the appearance of a genuine artifact, a grimoire Thorbite by Semi, a renowned magical scholar. Murakami confirms its authenticity. Jin purchases it for 150 gold coins. Then comes the true turning point. A tome by Hugil Hister, a name lost to the general audience but not to Jin. Hugil was of the Hister clan, long thought extinct. In his previous life, Jin had trained under a Hister master. Seeing the book confirms the impossible. Their legacy survives. Without hesitation, Jin secures the tome with a dominant bid of 200 gold coins. This moment closes a loop from his past life and unlocks encrypted knowledge that only a true successor, like him, can access. With the artifacts secured, Jin shifts from passive observer to aggressive disruptor. He instructs Jet to summon the Syndicate's elusive leader, Liu, but Jet hesitates. Jin isn't asking him to deliver a standard message, he wants to weaponize deception. He orders Jet to declare that Baraden Zippel, the heir to the most powerful magic clan on the continent, has arrived. Jet is paralyzed. Impersonating a Zippel pureblood is tantamount to suicide. But Jin doesn't flinch. He storms into the central hall, throws open the doors, and announces himself as Baraden Zippel, demanding a lust presence. The Syndicate's first move is not compliance, it's containment. A high-ranking enforcer is dispatched to test the imposter. Jin ends the conversation before it starts. With a single strike, he brings the enforcer down, then unleashes a barrage of flame magic, overwhelming the squad and reinforcing his false identity. The Zippels are known for their unmatched magical destruction. Jin uses that reputation like a sword. The room falls silent. There is no more doubt. There is no more negotiation. Jin Runcandel has seized control of the auction floor and Liu is next. The deception yields immediate and total submission. Liu, leader of the Tussing Syndicate, prostrates himself on the floor. The illusion of Zippel authority is absolute. Terrified of the repercussions, he profusely apologizes for failing to recognize a direct member of the world's most powerful medieval clan. In the background, Ket analyzes the flame spell Jin had unleashed earlier. It had the mana density of a Feisterkester, unheard of for someone so young. To Jet, this confirms the lie. Only a Zippel heir could possess such destructive power. Jin presses his advantage. He throws the two tomes, recently acquired magical grimoires, onto the floor, accusing Liu of stealing from the Zippels. Liu pleads ignorance, citing his martial background and claiming he didn't recognize the book value. Jin coolly rejects the excuse, invoking his supposed authority and demanding immediate access to the account books and client lists. He warns that if they are not delivered by morning, the entire Zippel clan will begin a formal investigation. Liu panics. Facing extinction at the hands of a global superpower, he requests permission to leave and retrieve the documents. Jin recognizes the stall tactic instantly. It's a move to buy time, destroy evidence, or call in corrupt reinforcements. Still, Jin permits it, subtly reminding Liu that he controls the Syndicate's fate. As soon as Liu hits, the tone shifts. The act is dropped. Jin and his team launch a full-scale extraction. There is no more pretense. Jet celebrates the sudden wealth. While Gilly hesitates, questioning the morality of stealing from criminals, Jin dismisses her concern. It was all stolen to begin with. In the midst of looting, Jin discovers his primary target, a box containing a white artifact. Jet also retrieves the evidence Jin needed. Ledgers listing the birthplaces and ages of enslaved victims. Mission complete, they prepare to leave. At the exit, one of Allah's subordinates stands in their path. Without hesitation, Jin silences him with a precise blow to the jaw, knocking him unconscious. Kei is stunned by the swift violence against an unarmed man, but Jin doesn't slow down. Before parting ways, Jin issues a final order to Jet: take the documents, flee to the Bemand Empire, and live as a protected whistleblower. Jet refuses. For the first time, he is aligned with someone destined for greatness, and he won't abandon that chance. He pledges loyalty, swearing to follow Jin wherever the path leads. Acknowledging the risk, Jin finally rewards Jet's trust with the truth. "I'm not Baraden Zippel." The lie collapses. 2 hours later, Liu returns to the hallway. His subordinate, just waking up, delivers devastating news. The real Baraden Zippel has long silver hair. The fraud is exposed. Realizing he groveled before an impostor, Liu erupts. The Syndicate's vaults are empty, its intelligence files stolen, and its authority shattered. In a fury, Liu smashes his subordinate into the wall. The investigation is over. The hunt has begun. The calm of the evening encampment is shattered by the arrival of Liu, the enraged leader of the Tussing Syndicate. Disheveled and stripped of dignity, he tracks down Jin Runcandel and Marakan, now aware that he has been deceived. Yet he still believes the loss is merely financial. Jin corrects him. He presents the Syndicate's ultimate vulnerabilities, the slave registry and client database, containing the names of aristocratic patrons complicit in the illegal trade. These documents were not simply stolen, they were duplicated and distributed worldwide via magical mail. What Liu has lost is not gold but the foundation of his empire. His political immunity is gone, his reputation annihilated. In one night, the Syndicate has been institutionally dismantled. Liu snaps, consumed by psychotic rage. He casts strategy aside and commands his forces to kill. His remaining subordinates charge in blind fury. Marakan intercepts the first wave. Even in human form, the Shadow Dragon treats the attackers as nuisances. Their strikes are clumsy, their aura feeble. The difference in class is laughable. Sensing their imminent defeat, the enemy mages abandon formation and begin casting spells, ignoring their own front line. Liu screams for them to fire through their allies if necessary. No one must survive. Jin acts fast. He orders Gilly behind him and activates a defensive artifact, A gift from Runcandel. A shimmering blue barrier expands just in time, absorbing a chaotic storm of fire and ice magic. Jin analyzes the spellcasters. Sub 5-star mages. The barrier holds effortlessly, a testament to Lu's might. Murakan, now irritated, decides to end it. With a flick of shadow energy, he unleashes a devastating wave. Darkness crashes across the field, flattening the enemy in an instant. Screams are silenced. The foot soldiers are either dead or incapacitated. Only Alu remains standing amidst the carnage, his eyes wild, his sanity gone. He laughs, loud, broken, and unhinged. Everything he built is gone. His gold, his protection, his army. Only hatred remains. With murderous obsession, he focuses all his energy on Jin. Murakan steps back. He recognizes the shift in stakes. Alu is a 7-star martial artist, a level of threat far above anyone Jin has faced so far. Murakan doesn't interfere. He announces that this duel will be Jin's true trial, not just another criminal to eliminate, but a real combat evaluation, a crucible for growth. Survive it, the Shadow Dragon says, and prove you're worthy of the path you've chosen. The duel opens with a critical tactical miscalculation from Alu, the 7-star martial artist. Assuming Jin Runcandel is a conventional spellcaster, Alu charges forward, aiming to exploit the presumed physical fragility typical of mages. He expects a panic retreat or a flimsy barrier. Instead, he is met with a flawless parry. Jin blocks the incoming blow with masterful swordsmanship. The impact sends out a shockwave, but Jin remains grounded and unshaken. From the sidelines, Gilly voices concern. In this world's power structure, the gap between a 5-star and a 7-star warrior is nearly insurmountable, an equation that typically spells annihilation for the weaker fighter. But Murakan, ever the calculating observer, forbids interference. To him, this isn't just a battle, it's Jin's crucible. Intervention would sabotage the point. Alu laughs off the initial parry as a fluke and redoubles his attack, pressing with raw aura and brute superiority. 2 stars apart, he believes Jin's defeat is guaranteed. Jin doesn't justify expectations, he reconstructs the battlefield. While maintaining aggressive swordplay, he simultaneously casts high-tier thermal magic at close range. The explosion forces Alu to break stance and retreat, a maneuver unthinkable for a 7-star combatant under normal circumstances. That's when it hits Alu. The fireball he saw earlier wasn't from an artifact. It came from Jin himself. This isn't a standard mage. This isn't a swordsman either. This is a magic swordsman. Alu's mental model collapses. Frantic to reassert the martial hierarchy, he unleashes one final, frenzied assault, roaring that Jin is still vulnerable. He is wrong. Jin taps into a force that transcends the star-based ranking system. Helmet release. Dark energy floods the battlefield. Shadow force condenses into armor, manifesting as a spectral helmet armor that wreathed Jin's body in abyssal power. His blade crackles with lightning and shadow, becoming a conduit of destruction untethered from the usual rules. Allah's strike lands, but it meets the void. Jin counters with a single, devastating blow. The shadow-infused strike slices through Allah's guard effortlessly, cutting deep and ending the fight. The duel ends not in victory by strength, but in the collapse of conventional power structures. Alu, a warrior forged in rigid systems of rank, is left broken by a phenomenon he cannot classify. The system failed. Jin Runcandel did not. The battle ends not with a duel, but with an execution. As Allah's body collapses, the shadow energy surrounding Jin Runcandel fades, revealing a key detail. The enemy's defense was natural. Murak identifies it as Multa's rune, a legendary relic crafted for an ancient emperor. The artifact grants complete immunity to any force beneath the 7-star threshold, which should have made Alu invincible, except Jin shattered that threshold. This discovery introduces an alarming wrinkle. According to Jin's memories, Multa's rune wasn't supposed to surface for another 5 or 6 years. Its premature appearance confirms what Jin has long suspected. His regression has already begun to warp history's natural flow. As Alu lies dying, he uses his final breath to taunt Jin. He recognizes the swordsmanship, Runcandel technique, and references the bladed illusion, the powerful curse that paralyzed Jin in his former life. Alu says that Jin will never say, the one who originally orchestrated his downfall. For Jin, the insult is a revelation. The mention of the curse proves it was coincidental. It was part of a calculated internal conspiracy. As his mind races through the Runcandel hierarchy, he eliminates possible suspects. His sisters lack the ambition or ruthlessness for Zishapla. Only one name fits, Hyosho Runcandel. Heir apparent, politically protected, threatened by pride born too late. The mystery is solved. Jin's regression was just a second chance. It's a confirmation of premeditated erasure. The world won't learn that a rogue Runcandel took down a criminal empire. Instead, the public story is written. The Zippel and Mamit royal families fled the Mia, claiming full credit for the takedown of the Tessington case. Their alliance is lauded as a sign of stability and strength. Jin allows it. Let them have the credit. While the world applauds false heroes, Jin keeps what truly matters. the rune, the treasure, and most importantly, the history grimoires. His anonymity remains his strongest weapon. Jilly, ever watchful, cautions him. Surviving a 7-star duel doesn't make him invincible. Their journey continues. The new destination. Taken, the independent city. Unaligned with any major faction, it hosts the 7 Colors Information Guild, the only organization capable of deciphering the encrypted history family tome and investigating the mysterious Kulon ruins. During the voyage, Jin resumes training. Murakan begins lessons in light magic, focusing on spells lost to history after the Zipples purged them. Jin quickly learns Flashbang, a utility spell adding range and versatility to his growing arsenal. But even with ancient knowledge, the history resists decoding. Its cipher proves too complex, even for a dragon. Upon arrival in Taken, the mission's tone shifts. The city radiates the illusion of neutrality and peace, masking deeper currents of influence and danger. Yet the party's discipline immediately falters. Murakan, craving comfort, transforms into human form in a public sector. A civilian child witnesses the metamorphosis. In a single moment, the group's anonymity is compromised. Before the mission even begins, the covered entry into Tagan is compromised almost immediately. A young civilian, Julia, witnesses Murakan's transformation into his dragon form, an act that should remain secret. Jin attempts to manage the fallout with misdirection. But the child is resolute and difficult to gaslight. To prevent rumors that might reach the Zippel clan, he chooses a soft containment strategy, escorting her to the local garrison. Julia resists, citing prior harassment by authorities. Jin anticipates a corrupt bureaucracy, a common hazard in neutral cities. But the encounter flips his expectations. The garrison commander is revealed to be Alicia Badger, a seasoned veteran and, more importantly, Julia's father. His aggressive aura melts into relief upon recognizing his daughter, and Jin's prediction of corruption proves unfounded. Operating under the LA's Jin Grey, the Runcandel declines a reward for returning the girl, instead requesting logistical support. Badger responds with a sealed letter of recommendation, granting Jin and his party VIP access across the city. The incident ends not in exposure, but in the acquisition of a powerful local endorsement. However, as the party departs, a critical intelligence failure unfolds. Julia tells her father about the talking cat. Commander Badger, an experienced operative, immediately identifies it as polymorph magic, a transformation spell exclusive to powerful beings. The only logical conclusion: a dragon has entered Dickon. Though unaware of this deduction, the group's anonymity is compromised at the highest level. Using the letter, the group secures elite lodging. While Dilly goes out for supplies, Jin privately debriefs Murakan. He reveals the target: the 7 Colors Information Guild, and its enigmatic leader, Kashmir, known to the public as the Noble Sword. Jin's regression memories unveil a shocking truth. 10 years in the future, Kashmir, currently posing as a reclusive swordsman, will weaponize 7 Colors to manipulate both the Zippels and Runcandels, eventually establishing himself as king of Takan. He's not just a mercenary or noble. He's an exiled emperor of Mamit, hiding in plain sight. Jin's goal is clear: recruit him before history can repeat. Before a plan can form, disaster strikes. Healy returns in panic. The lodge is cleared of all staff and guests. The area has been sanitized for conflict. Before they can react, Kashmir appears, emerging behind Gilly without triggering even a hint of presence. He greets them politely. But Jin recognizes the veiled threat: a sovereign tier predator probing his prey. Before Jin can speak, Murakan misreads the moment. Sensing danger, the Shadow Dragon unleashes a lethal blast of energy, interpreting the infiltration as an assassination attempt. His reaction is instant and overwhelming, far beyond diplomatic necessity. Kashmir remains calm, but Murakan prepares to execute him on the spot. Jin has no choice. He issues a frantic counter-command, desperately trying to halt the assassination of a man who could become the linchpin of his entire long-term strategy. The immediate crisis is diffused not through diplomacy, but through the weight of undeniable power. When Murakan takes offense to Kashmir's casual tone, the Shadow Dragon exerts his full presence, radiating ancient dominance. Kashmir, the battle-hardened strategist, instantly reevaluates the situation. He recognizes that the entity before him is not human, and shifts into a deferential stance, acknowledging Murakan's superiority. Before the confrontation escalates into violence, Jin Runcandel intervenes, halting Murakan with authority, demonstrating his own command over the dragon. With the threat averted, the tone pivots to negotiation. Kashmir identifies Gillian Clorin, referencing her once great status as a warrior in the Bowman Palace, but notes her aura has entirely vanished. Jin chooses this moment to reveal his true name. The moment the Runcandel surname is spoken, the room shifts. Kashmir dismisses his hidden security detail and agrees to speak privately to calculate risk, and a subtle sign of trust. During the confidential exchange, Kashmir inquires about Murakan's affiliation, a dragon siding with a Runcandel. That's unheard of. Such pacts are traditionally the domain of the Zippels or divine contracts. Din sidesteps the details and flips the conversation, pressing Kashmir to reveal what he's hiding. The noble sword folds. He reveals his vulnerability. His daughter, Julia. Kashmir explains that Julia possesses a rare gift, the ability to perceive true forms. She witnessed Murakan's polymorph, confirming his dragon nature. But there's more. Julia is a contractor of Asmil, the god of sight. The revelation stuns the room. Murakan reacts immediately, diagnosing the situation as catastrophic. Contractors of Asmil are rare, not because of power scarcity, but because of lethality. Without a guardian dragon to act as a cognitive filter, a human child subjected to future vision will suffer madness or death. Murakan breaks it down clinically. Even dragons struggle with the burden of foresight. For a 5-year-old human, it's a slow psychic death. Worse, Asmil's power comes with laws of causality. Trying to alter foreseen death events leads to the contractor's destruction. Kashmir confirms the worst. Julia's guardian dragon disappeared a year ago, and despite deploying all the resources of the Seven Colors Intelligence Guild, has found nothing. In desperation, the noble sword kneels and begs Murakan for help. The dragon refuses. Not his problem, not his fight, but Jin sees an opportunity. Rather than appeal to emotion, he appeals to leverage. He enlifts Kashmir from his knees and proposes an alliance. If the Seven Colors pledges loyalty and intelligence support, Jin will help find the guardian dragon. He begins immediately, requesting a full registry of dragons known to reside in the Mamit Empire. Murakan, intrigued, agrees to hunt using his draconic senses, flashing a predatory grin. Far away, the ripple effect begins. In a distant region, a young girl named Anya reports to her guardian, an elf named Runcandel, that Jin Runcandel has risen to a 5-star knight. Anya is revealed to be a contractor of Volta, the god of time. Runcandil's expression hardens. She senses a shift in the mana. A black thing has arrived. Murakan's return is no longer a secret. Powerful beings across the continent are beginning to stir. Murakan initiates a high-risk mana pulse protocol over the Mamit Sea, intentionally destabilizing atmospheric mana to provoke a reaction from hidden draconic entities. He instructs Jin Runcandel to mask his identity, knowing that such a signature would act as an open challenge to any territorial dragon nearby. The provocation works. A manifest of dragons appears, confirming the presence of the earth dragons Lawless and Until, as well as the silver dragon Runcandel. Upon seeing her name, Murakan falters, rare hesitation from a creature normally brimming with bravado. Runcandel is more than a threat. She is his former partner, and this confrontation will not be diplomatic. Before their departure, a flashback reveals Murakan's hidden layers. He instructed Jin to keep the Time God's contractor physically exhausted, a technique to suppress divine overload. He also swapped out a dessert for another party member. The smallest gesture proved Murakan's harsh exterior conceals deliberate care and operational ethics. Back in the sky, the pulse draws results. Lawless and Until emerge from the sea. Not to fight, but to prostrate themselves. They recognize Murakan's aura and beg for his retreat. Despite his weakened state, his former dominance still commands reverence. Their fear, however, isn't of Murakan, it's of Runcandel. They warn. She is coming, and her intent is elimination, not negotiation. Jin presses for clarity. Murakan admits the truth. 5 centuries ago, he and Runcandel were bonded, not merely in battle, but in life. The feud is personal. Whatever loyalty once existed is now gone. Murakan attempts a tactical retreat. Is too late. A massive kinetic bombardment slams into their airspace, a 8-star level output or higher. The shockwave forces them into a defensive spiral. Runcandel arrives in humanoid form, her tone ice cold and final. Your survival is an insult to justice. Murakan acknowledges it. This is no longer reconnaissance. This is an execution. He shifts his suppressive tactics and calls for brament. He tells Jin flatly, strike when the opening comes. Runcandel completes her transformation mid-air, sealing the battlefield. The skies above the Mamit Sea are no longer neutral. 2 former allies are about to clash, not for dominance, but for survival. The aerial duel begins with lethal intent. Runcandel, the Silver Dragon, opens with a high-grade bombardment. No warning, no diplomacy. The force of the attack forces Murakan to abandon offense and prioritize pure evasion. Despite the hostility, he attempts verbal de-escalation, urging Runcandel to reconsider, to prioritize their shared mission over personal betrayal. It fails instantly. Runcandel has no intention of listening. Her aerial dominance becomes a weapon, pressing down with total suppression. The battlefield belongs to her. Murakan shifts tactics. He attempts to activate shadow energy release, but his weakened state robs him of full power. Runcandel intercepts mid-cast and lands a devastating physical blow. The impact craters the sky around them. The duel devolves into a one-sided beatdown. Murakan makes a final attempt to appeal to their shared past. That was a mistake. The mention of their former relationship only fuels Runcandel fury. Whatever emotional connection once existed is curdled into rage. Murakan admits the truth. He cannot win in a direct confrontation. He shifts roles from fighter to sacrificial anchor. He grabs hold of Runcandel mid-flight, locking her in a grapple. It's not dominance, it's a calculated restraint, a desperate bid to open a single, decisive window. He gives the signal. Jin Runcandel leaps from Murakin's back, blade in hand, shadow energy priant. He falls like a count toward the exposed dragon. Runcandel sees him, but underestimates him. A human sword can pierce dragon scales. She's wrong. What she fails to calculate is that Murakin transferred his shadow energy directly into Bradamant, Jin's weapon. At point-blank range, Jin releases the full burst. The impact slices a vertical wound across Runcandell's torso, forcing disengagement. Jin crashes into a nearby rock formation. Drained, Murakin praises the strike. Under normal conditions, the blow would be fatal, even to a dragon. But this is no normal dragon. As they regroup, Runcandell's chest begins to glow. Temporal magic activates. The massive wound begins to rewind, reversing through time. The damage is undone. The assassination attempt has failed. Murakin doesn't mince words. We're going missing. In every statistical model, this is where we disappear forever. Jin has secured a hard-fought victory over Miran Zippel, but his body is breaking down. And the skies above are swarming with reinforcements from the 7th Magic Tower. The danger has never been greater. With the arrival of Midor Elner, the extraction window is gone. Now, Jin and his team must endure a gauntlet they were never meant to survive. Can they hold out until high noon? Tap the next video to find out, and don't forget to like and subscribe to stay locked in for the next chapter of this epic saga.